Afternoon and all. Good afternoon. The subject name is compiler design. In this subject, we discussed some of the problem solving concept in some of the modules which we discussed previously, various phases of compiler. Now, in this lecture, that is, what are the some of the definitions and terminologies which are to be covered in the first phase of this compilation, that is introduction to compilers. So, this is the first definitions and terminology. First, that is compiler. The definition of compiler, it is here. It is nothing but a computer program. It is a computer program which translates a computer code written in one programming language into another programming language. That means program code is to be translated. Program code is to be written in program one language. That means generally we are going to write this one is in terms of a high level language program. High level language program in the sense C, C++, Java, PHP, etc. Several programming languages which we are. And it develops the source code in another language. That means here the output is to be displayed in the form of that is a machine code, understands and displays the input. That is what is the corresponding input, that is the supplied by the user. Then translate that one and generates the machine code as form of output. And the number one is define interpreter. Here it is also a computer program. Generally, this is mainly used for the purpose of executing directly the machine code, and that is program instructions without any medium, and performs that is into a high level programming using one of the high level programming language. Translator, it is also a program accepting the source program which is to be written in one programming language and produces output in another programming language. That means with the help of several high level languages, we are going to use the translators and then produces this program in another. Generally, the translators are several types. One is interpreter, compiler, and also a preprocessor. We know the interpreter, compiler, previously we had given the definition. And the preprocessor, before executing this compilation, it do some of the, that is importing that directives and specials or stuff like that, all those to be involved, and then do the execution. Mainly important to this subject, that is token. So token means whenever the first phase of the compiler, that is the lexical analyzer. So this process it separates the source code. That means the lines of code that is to be given in program can be divided into some special unit that is called as lexims. So this is called as a token, which is to be arranged as a form of sequence of characters, which is to consider as a single logical entity. That means it further are divisible into smaller units of the program, that is characters. So that is called as a token. And the pattern means previously we defined that one is a several stream of characters. Now these characters are formed as a group of words. So these words are to be considered as a string. Each word has one string, and that small strings, individual units of the words together forms this set. So we are going to get several strings. So this program lines of code where the characters are defined with the lexical units. Then by using this mechanism, that is buffering techniques, each word is to be recognized separately with the help of that buffering techniques, and then this is to be called as identified as a separate keywords. Then other input mechanisms are to be used in order to verify that whether it is a any control structures like if while and other reserved words and these characters are to be separated. So these are called, that is token. So whenever that word is, so these set of strings in that input is to be, which is as token, and that is to be considered as one output process. That means individually units are to be processed each and time. Whenever the white space is identified, in that then it stops the process and it recognizes as one keyword. So that is to be considered as one token. So this set of strings is described by some pattern mechanism concept. So this is to be identified with that. So that's why this each every token associated with one pattern. So like pattern matching, individual characters are to be formed as group of words, and this to be recognized one string form, and then it is to be another important one is what are the different set of compilers that has to be used. So depends on the programming languages. They are going to be used for the corresponding programming languages. Otherwise, some of the compilers which are used mainly for most of the suitable compilers. That is ADA language, which uses ADA compilers, and the ALGAL uses ALGAL compilers. Beginners all purpose symbolic instruction code basic. ALGAL is algorithmic language, and C programming languages have their own own compilers. C compilers, C++ has its own compilers. COBOL programming, common business oriented language, they have own compilers, and Java also. So some of the compilers which is used commonly, and for some programmers specifically they download. Why? Because the errors, syntax point of view, execution point of view, those compilers works and give better results compared to other compilers. So it is 99% of fast execution takes place for the usage of these compilers. Another one is Lexim. Lexim is a concept which is used for framing the individual characters, and then this is to be used for pattern matching and recognized as a separate token. So we know that a sequence of characters which are available for each of the instruction in a programmatic language of the statements. So that's why this source program individual lines of code is to be processed into each and every character, but that is called as a lexeme. So this sequence of characters then processed to a pattern matching, and that is to be identified as an individual word. That is to be considered as one token. What is the front end is to be used inside is the compiler notation. So here the front end indicates that the source program which is used and produces the intermediate code. So there are total 6 phases of a compiler are available. One is lexical analysis, syntax analysis, semantic analysis. Fourth one is intermediate code generation. Fifth one is code optimization. Sixth one is code generation. Now these 4 phases are together called as front end of the compilation process, where the input of the program for this front end input is a source high level programming language, and the output is a intermediate code. Whereas the back end of the compilation process are called as code optimization and code generation. So here the back end input is the intermediate code, and output is the code generation phase. So what are the specification of tokens? There are mainly 3 specifications of tokens are there. One is string, another one is language, another one is regular expressions. These are the 3 specifications of tokens. So what is a language? So here the programmatic language differs from this language. Why? Because here individual words recognized. So first letters, individual letters, that is letters means like characters, individual 0, 1, A, B, C, and like this. These are examples of some letters. So these letters form combination of a sequence of these letters called as that is alphabets. It is put together called as string. Now these strings are to be chosen from that alphabet only. So what is alphabet? Individual letter. So this is to be defined with a notation that is called as sigma. This is to be described with the notation that is sigma. Sigma star indicates that this star means it indicates that many number, that means zero or many number of elements that is to be processed over sigma. So that's why here sigma can be finite or infinite. That means it can be limited or many number means several number of. So sigma star indicates that a zero one zero element with the that is length of strings, string length with 0, string length with 1, string length with 2, string length with 3, so on, etc. So this is a infinite. So if it is defined with some number sigma 2, then we can say that it is a finite element. It is called as a finite language, where the string lengths are only 2. That means suppose here sigma equal to a comma b. So here in this case we can say that it is a finite. Where sigma star means it is many. So here finite means how many elements? 2 elements, that is 2 square 4. So the combination of A, B with the 4 elements are A is one string, epsilon is, that is null string, one empty string, and second one is small a, third one is small b, and fourth one is as AA, and another one is B. So the number of elements that is to be processed here, 4 elements, that is here we are going to use epsilon, that is if it is a null string included, otherwise we cannot include. So depends on, so here epsilon is not included. Why? Because this contains only 4 elements, either A, B, individual, or AA, AB, BA. So that means depends on the sigma which is to be described with that particular elements only. Now, what is a regular expression? Here, regular expression is nothing but the procedure which is used for algebraic transformations and the way to represent particular language. Automata is nothing but, another one is, automata is to be described as information is transferred used for performing some actions without direct participation of the kind. That means here system where information is transmitted, and then it is used for performing some functions without direct interpretation of a man. That means this automatical way of doing without interfering of a human. So that type of computations are called as automata, where the user cannot user cannot perform the activity. The system can do that activity instead of that. So another one is compilation and interpretation. What is the difference between? Here we are going to use, it is a high level instruction programming for compilation and then into a machine code, whereas interpreter high level into an intermediate form. That means it can do without any intermediate code, it can perform the task. What are the different functions of a parser that is to be used? First point is here it will check the tokens from the lexical analyzer. So it's a lexical analyzer. Duty of lexical analyzer is it performs segregation of different division of units, individual units called tokens. So this is to be described in terms of pattern, one pattern, and these patterns are permitted by the specification of the source programming language. And another point is it also imposes on tokens like tree structure used by the subsequent phases of the compiler. That means whatever the output that is delivered by the lexical analyzer, that means individual tokens that is released. So that patterns are to be given as input to the next phase, that is syntax analyzer phase, where that phase in that phase the tokens are arranged in the form of a tree structure notation. The tree structure is also called as parse tree or syntax tree notation. So that is to be used by the second phase, that is next phase of the compilation, syntax. So what is meant by lexical analyzer? Lexical analyzer, briefly, it is also called as a lexiv or lexer. It is also called as a lexer, where the individual symbols, each and every character with individual symbols are to be formed from the source code, and then it is to be processed in the form of a token, individual words as a token. What is phase? Here we know that compiler is divided into several processed into several number of phases. The whole program is processed into several. Here phase means each phase is to be logically interrelated with the source that takes the source program with one representation and produces output in another representation. That means the high level program which is processed by the compiler, first initially the lexical analyzer process will perform some action and then give an output to the next phase of the compiler. So that is the operation performed by the lexical. Next job of another next phase is syntax analyzer phase. Accept the individual tokens and then generation of the parse tree. So that is the second phase of the compiler. So here in this case, the entities that is to be the phase first lexical analyzer phase, and this lexical analyzer is the first phase. Second one is syntax analyzer phase. So in this phase, the output is processed. That what is the output that is processed as a tokens, individual high-level language programmatic statements into separated into tokens. So these tokens are taken as an input to this syntax analyzer phase and forms a tree structure. That means this is the output of the syntax analyzer phase. So that is here this phase is doing some activity with taking the source program with one representation and producing token as output in another representation. Similarly, syntax analyzer accepting the tokens as one representation and producing the tree structure as another. So that is what phase is, nothing but different forms of the representation it produces accepting the input. And another term is what is meant by a loader. Here loader means a program, it is also a program where some of the things that is to be placed into the memory, while execution these things are to be carried out for successful running of the program. What are the properties under which regular languages are not closed? This is one of the point. What is the properties means here? Closed and not closed under subset, superset, infinite union, and infinite intersection. So some of the properties which are not closed, why? Because here the regular languages with the union operation, intersection operation, and subset. So here, if you take the two, if a regular language, L is one regular language, another is one regular language, then the subset of L subset of M, which is to be considered as one more subset. The result of this subset of these two regular languages is not a regular language. So the result is to be proved with the help of a theorem. So it is not equal to the regular language. It is not a subset. So the result of this one is not a. So some of the operations are holds good, some in cases, and some of them are not. Like which of the properties, some of them are holds good, where homomorphism and inverse, that is a reversal of a regular language. So if you take one language, regular language L, and the reversal of a language L bar, that is L power R, is also a regular language. So this properties holds good, but some of them are not holds good. That is not closed, where subset and superset, these operations are not closed. Another one is important, that is what is the regular expression for strings without two consecutive ones 1 1. So here we are going to represent an expression in such a way that the strings are formed with many number, but that begin with either 0 or 1, 0 or 1, but does not have two consecutive ones. That means here, if you consider this expression, in this expression, starting one is 1. So 1 plus epsilon. That means we can go with 1 or epsilon. And in the second term, if you observe, that is the term that is 0, another term is 0, 1. That means I can go for 0 or 0, 1. So if I start with 0, I can go with 1 0, or I may have 1 0 1 also. So if I choose 1 0, then there is no consecutive one. So this is allowed. And the second term also 1 0 1. Why? Because this is also does not contain consecutive ones. So that is also allowed. So that's why we can write a regular expression in such a way that it accepting all the strings, but only the string that is accepted is 1 1. So here there is no 1 1, combination is 0 1. Here also 1 followed by 0 only. There is no consecutive ones. Another one is, what is meant by an identifier? What is identifiers? Identifiers are nothing but it is a set or string of letters, digits, begin with a letter. Begin with a letter. So set or string with letters and digits. So we know that various letters, that is a comma, b comma, and digits 0 1. All these are all begin with letters. So digits begin with a letter. So this is that means there is some valid rules are there to follow that one. If it is valid identifier, invalid identifier. So we can follow based on the programming language. One programming language with the difference based on Pascal, Fortran, COBOL, Java. These programming languages uses terminology with identifier notation for that rules. If you follow that, rules are to be barely specifically used for that programming syntax accepting notations. Thank you. We'll come up with one more now, that is remaining things with one more.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.